Now it's time for Lefties Losing It, starting with Hollywood has-been Glenn Close sounding the doomsday alarm about Trump's America.
I'm a big reader of history, and unfortunately, I think not enough people in this country understand the history and what we've just gotten ourselves into. That's very dangerous.
Well, it's about as dangerous as this next video. Has anyone done a welfare check on old Glenn?
The sun comes up, the sun goes down, and my hair is a symphony all its own. It's so beautiful, it takes my breath away.
She's come a long way from her fatal attraction days, hasn't she? And those days have taken a toll, clearly. Now, the question has to be asked, why is Hollywood so woke? Well, let's ask actor Anthony Mackie what Captain America represents for him.
For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term, America should be one of those representations. It's about a man who keeps his word, who has honor, dignity, and integrity, someone who is trustworthy and dependable.
Yes, so Captain America doesn't think Captain America represents America. Quite a tongue-tie there. And speaking of fatal attraction...
Can someone tell me what MAGA men find attractive so that I can wear the complete opposite? Thanks.
Oh, look out, all you MAGA men. Don't make yourselves look too good or else. Now to Donald Trump's executive order on banning trans people from the military. And it's got this trans Democrat in a tiz.
The military is the largest employer of transgender Americans. You heard up to 14,000, 15,000 members identify as trans, and 56 of our retired generals have said that our trans members are ready to serve, they are fit to serve. This will only make our military less ready to serve by taking 15,000 people who volunteered out of service.
Yeah, I wonder if China is thinking about preparing its military for battle with trans people, because I'm sure a diverse military is front of mind for Beijing. Now, a quick public service announcement from the folks down in Mexico.
And let me make something absolutely clear, unless I wasn't already. If you voted for Trump, you are not allowed in Mexico. You are not allowed in Cabos, Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, Aguascalientes, none of that. Guess what, baby? That's all in Mexico. You don't like us, we don't like you. Don't go there. Stay in your country. Figure it out.
And who wants to tell her that the difference between Americans going to Mexico on a vacazione, not to stay there illegally, and overwhelm their systems? Now to the bitter banshees over at The View and the dim-witted Sunny Austin, as always, who has offered her unusual and crazed views, and this time on Trump's deportations.
The Europeans that come here that overstay their visas are undocumented, but they don't come across the southern border. So I think there's a very clear message as to what this president wants the look of a criminal migrant to look like, what an undocumented migrant. And I think that's racist.
Yes, okay, it's racist because he isn't targeting Europeans. Does she listen to herself? And this is where Sunny probably should have stopped. But no, she continued with the mumbo-jumbo, claiming living in the country illegally isn't a crime.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal because he or she is undocumented. That is a civil offense. So to call people illegal is, in and of itself, I think, xenophobic and racist.
And this is where her IQ, the low IQ, shows, because you actually have to legally enter a country. I don't know why it's just so hard for these loons to understand. Now to the backlash over Selena Gomez's Britney Spears-esque meltdown over deportations. And guess who you could always count on for support? Yes, it's sacked CNN anchor Don Lemon.
So now we live in a time where Selena Gomez, even though she is, a wealthy star, she can't have an opinion. She can't post online how she feels about deportations and immigration without being made fun of by the far right or the MAGA folks. And just like everybody else, just like you folks who are criticizing her, she can state her feelings online, on social media, just like you are.
Poor Donnie, trying desperately to seek relevance, and I know just the fix. Oh, please, keep them coming.
I'm so sorry. Only people are getting attacked. Children.
It brings tears to my eyes as well. Now to the ICE truck, which has got the lefties panicked.
That's Border Patrol. That is so damn.
Just like Mr. Whippy, these lefties will believe anything, including this conspiracy that ICE is disguising their trucks as ice cream patrol and playing music to lure undocumented immigrants. Cue the panic, cue the warnings.
What's going on, guys? Just a quick little message for all the Latinos out there. Just gonna say, keep your eyes open, pay attention.
Eyes open. Well, in reality, it was, after all, just your average run-of-the-mill Las Vegas ice cream truck. Well done, gullible lefties. Joining me now is Newsweek opinion editor Bhatia Ungasagan. Bhatia, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. Let's start with illegal crossings, because there were less than 600 recorded at the southern border on Sunday, a dramatic plummet from the thousands regularly encountered at the height of the Biden administration's border crisis. Bhatia, how significant is this? As I said, at its peak, more than 6,000 people were sometimes encountered at the southern border. How big of a testament is this to Donald Trump?
Thank you so much for having me. It's always so great to be here with you. This is a huge deal. This is why Donald Trump was elected. This is his mandate. This was the immigration election, because for working class people, who are the people who gave Donald Trump his victory, immigration is an economic proposition. When you flood the country and you flood the marketplace with millions and millions and millions of illegal immigrants, those people end up competing for jobs with Americans and driving down the wages in working class industries. Step one to getting working class people higher wages is controlling the supply of labor. And that is really what Donald Trump is doing. Promises made, promises kept. It's clear that the cartels who traffic these humans into America know that there is a new sheriff in town and that he's very, very serious about what he's doing. And he's taken on a multi-pronged approach. They've started the mass deportations of people here illegally, including many criminals. He has also empowered ICE agents to actually do their jobs, protecting the homeland. And then he has empowered the Border Patrol by designating these cartels as terrorist groups. And so in all of these ways, Donald Trump is not just supporting the American people, not just doing what the American people sent him to do, but he's supporting the working class men and women in going out there and doing these very difficult and very dangerous jobs. And let me tell you, Danica, this is really unifying. You have the mainstream media out there wailing about the rights of these people. Well, first of all, illegal immigrants do not have constitutional rights. You have people like Selena Gomez weeping about the removal of murderers and rapists from this country. But you take those elites out of it, and Americans are breathing a sigh of relief, and that's whether they're Democrats or Republicans. This is a very unifying issue, and if the Democrats don't figure out how to talk about immigration in a way that is respectful to the American people, it's going to be very hard for them to come back from this.
Absolutely, and this was a key election mandate, as we know, and Donald Trump is delivering already a week in office. I think it's, from afar, it is wonderful to see a leader who is just getting down to business. It's terrific. Now, let's talk about the new press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, who really appeared to nail her first performance at her first press conference. Have a look at this.
Of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office, can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
Bhatia, what a star. She was prepared. She was ready to go. Is this a taste of what press briefings will be like from now on? No nonsense and straight to the point.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the pride with which she delivered the administration's position to a room full of progressive journalists who are, clutching their pearls at this is what you're going to see again and again from the administration. I think in his first term, Donald Trump really struggled to understand how to speak to the American people when you had the media in the way, lying about him constantly, putting their values ahead of those of the American people. And not so this time around. He has figured it out. He has come in like an assassin. He knows exactly what to do, exactly who the right people for the job are to get it done. You look at Tom Homan. He's just like Caroline Leavitt, a happy warrior out there, proud of the job that he has been given to do to protect the homeland and protect the American people. And I don't know if you were following this, but over the weekend, the president of Colombia refused to allow the repatriation of a plane full of Colombian criminals who Donald Trump was sending home. And immediately, Trump, who was, by the way, golfing at the time, hopped on Truth Social and said, that's it. Sanctions. Tariffs. We're not putting up with this. And within 45 minutes, the president of Colombia was offering his presidential plane to bring those criminals home to Colombia. We are not messing around anymore. And as an American, I can't tell you how amazing it feels to have a president who is doing exactly what we elected him to do. This is what democracy looks like. And all those lefties were trying to convince us he was a threat to democracy. It is the exact opposite. We are getting what we voted for, and it feels amazing.
Oh, I must say, I'm quite jealous. It's just nice to see that there is a good leader in this world. And I think you raised such a good point. He's got an incredible team around him. He's just picked the right people for the job. And I think it's a testament to his strong businessman assets. So I think it's absolutely terrific to see. Now, Bhatia, we finally have an update on those mysterious drones which had been flying around New Jersey. Here we go.
I do have news directly from the President of the United States that was just shared with me in the Oval Office. From President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy.
Bhatia, at least we know that they weren't foreign, but does it still raise questions? What research is this for? It feels like the mystery is almost deepened.
It's amazing because I remember the moment that I knew that this was not a danger. It was because Donald Trump, at the time, not the president, just a person running for president, got up there and said, that he basically did not think it was a foreign threat, and it was clear that he had been briefed. I think most of these were planes, and a lot of the footage, it looks like drones, but if you look at it a little bit longer, you can tell that they're actually planes. So I do think there was a bit of a sort of moral panic here. But certainly people just feel a lot safer in general knowing that Donald Trump is in charge. And so I think people's sort of willingness to feel like we're under threat is a little bit lower now because things seem a little bit calmer overall globally, thanks to the leadership here at home.
Yeah, fair enough. Absolutely, though. I think the mystery still deepens. We still want to know what the research is. Now, it is all over for lefty loony CNN anchor Jim Acosta, who has announced he is leaving the network. Have a listen.
It's never a good time to bow down to a tyrant. I've always believed it's the job of the press to hold power to account. I've always tried to do that here at CNN, and I plan on doing all of that in the future. One final message. Don't give in to the lies. Don't give in to the fear. Hold on to the truth and to hope.
Gosh, what a loser. Good riddance. And here is one of his best moments from the archives just last week.
This is not Fox, Congressman. You can't just spin a tail and pull the wool over people's eyes.
Yeah.
This is CNN. This is the news. We are asking you to come on and tell the truth.
And that's why more people are watching the Cartoon Network SpongeBob reruns right now, Jim.
And here he was being shut down by Donald Trump.
Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question? Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You are attacking our news organization.
Your organization
Can you give us a
is
chance
terrible.
to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can
Quiet.
you state,
Quiet.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you state
She's asking
categorically,
a question.
Mr.
Don't be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Bye-bye, Jim. Bartia, is the fake news finally petering out?
It's so amazing watching that clip now because at the time, of course, the atmosphere in the country was very different. The media had a lot more power and a lot more of a lock on how information was distributed. And we know that when it comes to the mainstream liberal media, actually the mainstream media overall in America, about 96% of journalists are Democrats, are liberals, are progressives. They're from the left. And so they had this lock on the dissemination of information, and they were constantly portraying Donald Trump as a white supremacist and a white nationalist and a racist and a totally evil, completely dastardly character, and many Americans believed it. And now what's ended up happening is 10 years later, 8 years later, you have really a big difference in how Donald Trump is perceived. Millions and millions of Americans realized that they were being lied to by the mainstream media, that Donald Trump actually had their best interests at heart and actually agreed with them on the vast majority of the issues, so much so that he was able to run this unity consensus campaign and flood to victory through, winning the popular vote. So that whole situation of how Trump was lied about so successfully in the first time around, and then he ended up being the proof of concept of how evil the media is, how much they lie, how big the gap is between where the media is and where the American people are, to where people just stopped paying attention and stopped listening and voted for the man that they thought would have their best interests at heart and just circumvented the media altogether. Now, I think what we're going to see here is CNN is clearly trying to regroup. And what they're trying to do now is get back to the center, is to reflect the truth rather than the Democrats' party line, the way that they've been doing for the last 10, 20 years. And it'll be very interesting to see if they succeed in doing so. One thing is certain, Danica, is these people are completely feckless and craven. They don't have an original thought in their head. The mainstream media in America, they're herd animals. And so they just follow each other. So I think the fact that CNN is getting rid of some of this very left-leaning pro-Democrat talent signals that there is going to be a shift as the media tries to become profitable again. I do think it's a little too late for them.
Yeah, I completely agree. Too little, too late for sure. Now, dozens of top former intelligence officials are urging members of the Senate to confirm Donald Trump's nominee for Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. It comes as she faces scrutiny from some senators who've been quite critical of her intelligence expertise. Bartia, why is she under a lot of pressure here? Because I note that she's a military officer, she's got more than 20 years of service and multiple combat deployments. Do you think that she will get this role?
It's going to be tight. And the reason for that is because Tulsi Gabbard represents a threat to the worst parts of the entrenched deep state. Tulsi Gabbard is a woman who has said that her core belief when it comes to foreign policy is when it comes to fighting terrorism, she is a hawk. And when it comes to counterproductive wars of regime change, she is a dove. This is the America First foreign policy. And of course, the Forever Wars crew, which runs very deep in the deep state, absolutely hate this idea that there would be wars that are none of our business, that we should absolutely not be engaged in, or on the flip side, that we should have a zero tolerance policy for terrorism. They like it the opposite. They love to negotiate with terrorists, and they love to get involved in all sorts of, wars that have nothing to do with us and turn people who are not our enemies into our enemies. The other thing that Tulsi Gabbard has been very vocal about is FISA warrants. Amazingly, she doesn't believe that the government should be spying on United States citizens. Well, this is a step too far for many of our elected officials. And honestly, her best asset may be the thing that ultimately sinks her in this race. I really hope she gets confirmed. She's a brilliant woman, a patriot, a hero, a veteran. I mean, what could you want more? She's great looking. I mean, she's like everybody else in Donald Trump's cabinet, brings so much to the table. And the very things that are her greatest strengths are the reasons that they don't want to confirm her.
Yeah, and also she clearly loves America. It's just extraordinary that this has been delayed so much. Now, let's talk about the situation in the Middle East. Naama Levy, one of the 4 female IDF soldiers released from Hamas captivity at the weekend, has spoken for the first time, saying, after 477 days, I'm finally home. I'm safe and protected, surrounded by family and friends, and feel better every day. During the first 50 days since October 7, I was most of the time alone. After that, I was captive with my fellow observers and citizens who gave me strength and hope. We held each other strong until the day of release and after it. But yeah, one can't even imagine what she and the other hostages have gone through. And I think it's a reminder, this is not over. There are still hostages being held captive, and we still don't know how many are alive or dead.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank God these girls are starting to come home. I think it was extremely important to get them home. Honestly, when the enemy has your women, I don't think there is too high a price to get them back. I know most Israelis don't feel that way. They feel very worried about the terrorists who are being released from prison. I was speaking to somebody who was very close with a judge in the West Bank who put a lot of these guys in prison, and to see them coming out, it's very difficult to see. But honestly, Israel needs to figure out how to police these terrorists and how to protect its citizens. Getting those hostages out is unbelievably important. And I don't think anyone has to worry that Donald Trump is going to allow Israel to end up in a worse situation than before he assumed office. We've never had a president who is so pro-Israel. I think that he's playing the long game. I think he has his sights set on normalization with the Saudis. And I think that that's the lens through which Donald Trump is proceeding here. He wants peace in the Middle East. He wants an economic normalization deal with the Saudis for America, and he wants one for Israel. And that is going to take some really creative thinking about how to rescue not just the hostages, but the citizens of Gaza from the Hamas terrorists and barbarians who oppress them as much as they do the Israelis.
No, you're spot on, absolutely. And it was interesting, Batia, because President Trump has actually invited the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to visit the White House next week and become the first foreign leader hosted by the president. Batia, how significant is this? The Israeli Prime Minister, I've got to say, has all but been abandoned by Western allies at a critical time of need. Why do you think that Trump is taking the time to get him now over to the United States?
I think he is buttering him up to make a very difficult ask, maybe something about Palestinian statehood. Trump has a lot of leverage when it comes to Israel because he has been such a friend of Israel. And there are things he wants in return, things that may be difficult for Bibi Netanyahu to give him. And I think that's a great thing. I mean, sometimes your friends need you to give you the tough love. And there's nobody on this planet who can give Israel that like Donald Trump can. I think he's thinking really big. His first term, he got the Abraham Accords done, which if that hadn't happened, God forbid, I cannot even imagine what the last 2 years would have been like for Israel. There's no way they could have waged the war that they just did against Hamas if they did not have the backing, implicit albeit, from the moderate Sunni Gulf states. And so you really have a different Middle East forming here, very much under the guidance of Donald Trump. And I'm very interested to see what he has planned next.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be interested to see if that meeting goes ahead. Now, before we let you go, I've got to ask you about the transgender issue in the military. 6 trans members are now suing Donald Trump over that executive order banning trans people from serving. Trump, of course, signed the order claiming transgender people's sexuality conflicts with a soldier's commitment to an honourable, truthful and disciplined lifestyle. Barty, I've got to say, I don't think that Trump will do anything, nor would he be worried about these 6 personnel suing him.
Yeah, I don't think so either. The thing that your viewers have to understand is that what Trump is doing is dividing the LGB from the TQIA plus whatever. Trump is unbelievably pro-gay. In fact, he has just appointed the highest ranking out proud gay person in American history, Scott Bessent, to the Secretary of Treasury. Scott is married to his husband. They have beautiful children that they're raising in a beautiful home. Trump is very pro-gay, but he does not believe that the trans agenda should be something that is seen as on a par with the gay agenda. I think he very much sees the transgender issue in a very different way. Many people, I think, today are starting to see transgenderism as something akin to a mental illness rather than akin to being gay. And I think that the position that the administration is taking is that there are 2 genders. That is the view of the United States right now under this government. And that there is a difference between saying, we believe that every person should be treated with dignity and protected from discrimination, and saying that we endorse this as a worldview that we think should be spreading.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. But look, good on him, as we said, Bhatia, that he's taken control from the beginning. Bhatia Ungasagan, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks so much for your time this evening.
Thank you so much, Danica. God bless.